All right, so today we're going down a very specific rabbit hole, and I'm excited to see where it takes us.
Yeah, this should be fun.
It is fascinating to me how these really hyper-specific deep dives
Mm.
can reveal so much about a much wider topic, you know?
I think so too. And in this case, what we've got is a whole bunch of feedback all centered around one particular experience, and that is navigating the Crinan Canal in Scotland with the help of a pilot named Peter Trott.
Yeah, it's not just like, oh, this is a lovely canal and you should go there.
Yeah.
It's specifically about this one guy's role in making the whole thing work.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to try to unpack. Like, why is this guy, Peter Trott, getting so much praise from everyone who uses his services? What is it about what he does that makes him so valuable?
Right, because we're not talking about, just like you said, a couple of happy boaters here. We've got a whole stack of testimonials, and the consistency of the positive feedback is really striking.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what's going on there.
Yeah.
So to even begin to answer that question, we need to talk a little bit about the Crinan Canal itself.
Okay, paint us a picture.
So picture this. It's this amazing feat of Victorian engineering built over 200 years ago. It's this crucial shortcut that connects Loch Fyne and the Sound of Jura, and it saves boaters a ton of time and hassle.
Okay, so this is a shortcut. So why all the fuss about this pilot?
Well, here's the thing. Unlike a lot of modern canals, the Crinan Canal is all manually operated locks. Think like old school hand-cranked mechanisms.
Oh, wow. So it's not just about steering a boat, it's a real workout.
Exactly. You need some muscle and you need to know what you're doing. And that's where Peter comes in.
Okay, so let's dig into these reviews. One thing that jumps out is how easy Peter makes that initial contact. Like Craig Wilson mentions, getting a super quick response with all the info he needed, even though he contacted Peter last minute.
Yeah, that's huge. When you're planning a trip, especially on a boat, through a somewhat unique waterway that can be a bit intimidating, having that reassurance right off the bat that someone's got your back is a big deal.
Definitely takes a load off your mind, right?
Yeah.
So you get in touch with Peter. He's reassuring now you're at the canal. What are some of the other things that people are praising him for?
Well, one review that sheds some light on that is Brian Wernham's. He points out that while canal staff are supposed to be around to help, they're often not. And on top of that, some of the locks are tricky to use. And remember, they're all manual.
Oh, yeah. That was the big thing, right?
Yeah.
200-year-old manual locks. So if you're a boater, maybe shorthanded, maybe you've never done this before, that could be a real recipe for stress.
Totally. And Craig Wilson actually mentioned that in his review, too. He said there were holdups because of staff shortages and water management issues, but that Peter's knowledge and enthusiasm helped him get through it all smoothly.
So it sounds like Peter's not just a pair of extra hands. He's like this walking encyclopedia of Crinan Canal knowledge.
Right. It's that deep understanding of how the canal works that people really value. David Denholm specifically said that Peter's knowledge of the locks and the workings of the canal was invaluable.
It's one thing to know how to operate a lock, but it's another thing entirely to understand the whole system and how everything fits together.
Right, exactly. And it seems like Peter's got that big picture view down pat. Scott A. even mentioned that Peter gave him advice on the best place to stay on the canal. So he's thinking beyond just getting you through the locks. He's thinking about the whole journey.
Yeah, that's smart. Makes the whole thing more enjoyable. Now, another theme that keeps popping up is speed. Like, people are amazed by how quickly Peter can get them through the canal.
Yeah, Matthew Linning said he had an early start and reached the Crinan Basin by 2:30 p.m. thanks to Peter's guidance. And he specifically mentioned that Peter was networked into the comms with the Scottish Canal staff.
Yeah, it worked. So he's like got an inside track.
Seems like it. It's like he knows who to call, when to call, and how to make things happen. And then you've got David Noble, who said they wouldn't have made it through in one day without Peter.
Okay, so time is of the essence for a lot of these boaters.
Yeah.
And if you're shorthanded, forget about it.
Yeah, Alistair Kennedy actually addressed that. He said Peter's a must for a shorthanded crew, especially on a bigger boat. But then he adds, even with a full crew, they'd still choose to have Peter.
Wow, so he's not just muscle, he's like this expert choreographer of the whole lock operation.
Right. And it's not just the physical effort, it's the time and energy it saves you.
Right.
David Denholm said, Peter sets up the lock and takes your ropes so the crew can focus on handling the boat.
Smart. You can really see how that would take a lot of the stress out of the whole experience. And that comes up a lot too, doesn't it? Like, people are just so relieved to have Peter there to guide them through it all.
Absolutely. Matthew Lenning called his passage stress-free and smooth. And Scott A. said Peter's service was confidence-building and made the whole transit so much easier and far less stressful.
Peace of mind in a potentially tricky situation. That's got to be worth a lot.
For sure, especially if it's your first time navigating a canal with manual locks, or if you're just feeling a bit overwhelmed. Even experienced boaters can appreciate that extra layer of support.
Totally. So we've got the knowledge, the efficiency, the stress reduction, but there's another element here that really stands out, and that's Peter's personality.
Yeah, he seems to be just a genuinely nice guy. Craig Wilson called him one of life's good guys. Matthew Linning said he was friendly and calm at all times.
And David Denholm chimed in saying he was affable and good company.
Even Joe Bleagle simply said he was very good company.
So it's not just a business transaction. It's like having a knowledgeable friend along for the ride.
Exactly. And that can make all the difference when you're spending a long day together on a boat going through a challenging waterway.
Right. So we've talked about all these amazing things Peter does, but are people feeling like they're getting their money's worth? Because let's face it, hiring a pilot is an added expense.
Well, David Denholm was very clear on that point. He said definitely value for money, in my opinion.
So he's ticking all the boxes: knowledge, efficiency, stress reduction, pleasant company, and it's all worth the price tag.
Right. And remember, it's not just about the time saved or the physical labor. It's that feeling of confidence and ease that he brings to the whole experience. It's like having a personal guide who knows all the ins and outs and can smooth the way for you.
And speaking of smoothing the way, another thing that really stood out to me was the number of repeat customers and glowing recommendations. Alistair Kennedy mentioned using Peter's services 3 times now and said each trip was so much more enjoyable with him there.
Yeah, and we saw phrases like highly recommended and invaluable sprinkled throughout these testimonials.
That word of mouth is powerful stuff. It shows a real level of trust and satisfaction.
Absolutely. When people are willing to not only come back for more, but actively recommend a service to others, it speaks volumes.
So let's bring this all together. Our deep dive into the experience of navigating the Crinan Canal with Peter Trott has revealed some really fascinating insights. His value doesn't come from just one thing. It's this amazing combination of deep practical knowledge of the canal, that physical assistance with the manual locks, the way he streamlines the transit, the stress reduction he offers, and those genuinely positive and helpful personal qualities.
It's a great example of how specialized knowledge, practical skills, and exceptional interpersonal abilities can come together to create a truly valuable service. And it's especially valuable in this specific context, where navigating the Crinan Canal can be challenging.
Right. He's not just a pilot. He's a key ingredient in a positive Crinan Canal experience. It makes you think, doesn't it?
Right.
What are the Crinan Canals in other areas of our lives? Where else might we encounter those metaphorical manual locks, those points of friction that require specific knowledge and effort to navigate?
And who are the Peter Trotts in those situations? The people with the expertise, the patience, and the positive attitude to guide us through.
It's a great reminder that sometimes the most valuable services are those that go beyond just the technical. They're about human connection and making a potentially difficult experience smoother and more enjoyable.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So next time you're facing a challenge, think about the Crinan Canal and the value of a skilled and empathetic guide.
It might just change your whole perspective.
Food for thought for sure.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See you then.